So we have Gretta Ray with us. How you doing today, Gretta?
I'm doing okay today. Just working through promo.
Yeah. Okay is just about as good as you can get at the moment, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think that, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of exciting stuff happening, but I'm kind of experiencing it and witnessing it all from the space of my bedroom that I've spent over 200 days in a lockdown in since last year. So, I think it's
fun.
weird, but it's, I think I'm in for a really lovely week in terms of, being able to connect with people online and doing the virtual things that we can to celebrate the album.
Exactly. We'll get to the album in just a moment. Some would say it's the reason you're here. Air quotes for the podcast. But I wanted to say first, thanks heaps for doing this. When I started this podcast, I was like, I've got to have a goal. And my first goal was get Gretta Ray on the podcast. And goal achieved. I can end the podcast now and live a regular non-podcast life like everyone else.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you for having me. I'm really glad that we're finally getting to chat about all the things. You've been so supportive of me over the past couple of months in particular, so I'm very grateful.
I don't know if I'm being supportive or more annoying. Whenever I'm a serial Instagram story replier.
That's what they're for. It's
exactly.
It's all good. I'm really glad you like the music and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll keep replying to Instagram stories until anyone tells me to go away. So feel free at any time to just tell me to fuck off. I'll accept it graciously.
Goodness me, that will not happen. Don't be concerned.
Okay, very good. So the album, it's not out for us yet, but by the time this podcast is out, everyone would have heard it. I assume everyone's heard it by now. What are you doing if you haven't heard it? But begin to look around. It's your first album. Excited to have it out?
Yeah, I am. I think excited and a little bit relieved as well, maybe. I have been waiting for this album to come out for a really long time. I think it being my first record is enough of a thing that makes it feel like a long time coming. But the fact that, we've been trying to work around or work within the limitations of this pandemic as we've been promoting it and creating content to go out alongside the songs, has definitely made it a little bit challenging. But I do think that I'll be able to look back on this time and be like, considering the circumstances and just how often I was in a lockdown, I think I'm really glad and so content with the amount of content that we've managed to get done in a safe way. And I think that, my team's really amazing and supportive. It's, my management's actually over in the UK. So this whole album campaign has been done over Zoom. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's a big achievement for us as a team. And I just really hope that people love the record and that it can be a nice little comforting, warm thing in this very odd time. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm sure very tricky getting everything. I think I saw on your Instagram or TikTok or something that you were saying that every time you've tried to do something, there's immediately been a lockdown just before you've had to.
Yeah. Well, we've been lucky in the sense that we've kind of jumped at opportunities every time there's been a window of time where we're out. So yeah, I think that with, the Passion video, it was just as we got out of lockdown. It was as soon as we could shoot a video, we did. With Bigger Than Me, we went into the Snap lockdown. I think it was number 3, the day after we wrapped. And with the recent video that we've shot that's not out, it will be out by the time that this podcast is out, for Love Me Right, we shot that within the 9-day window in between lockdowns 5 and 6. And so I think that's our greatest achievement. The timing for that was unbelievable. We literally wrapped the shoot And about 20 minutes after they called cut, I got a text from my friend saying there's been a COVID case, and the next day we were in lockdown. So yeah, it's been like a little race against the virus. But, you know, I think that I just really admire creatives in this time, because it's already so much work, and having to work within, you know, the limitations and the guidelines and, you know, the law, the rules to keep safe. It is really hard. And I think at this point, after it being nearly, you know, however long this pandemic's been going on for, a year and a half, nearly 2 years, like, yeah, I'm really impressed that people still have the energy and the diligence. And yeah, I'm really glad that we could make all that stuff still happen despite that. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you've been pushing out content, and yeah, so good on you.
Thank you.
Can never have enough. But, you know, chill out as well.
Chilling out is not on my list of things to do, man. Yeah. I'll tell you that. One day I will experience chilling out, but it's not for a while. It's not for some time, but that's okay. That's good. I just want to get this music to as many people as I can, so it's fine.
Yeah. Just take one day, I think.
Okay,
in
I'll
a
try.
month's time, in exactly 1 month, whatever the date is, on the 23rd of September.
I'll do that. Out. Well, I did have one day recently, actually, because I've been doing lots of work, and recently I got my first vaccine dose, and it was like the day after that, because it was AZ, so it's like there's a little moment where you feel a bit off, as I definitely did the following day, and I was like, well, in a way, it's kind of good, because it'll mean I literally can't work. Like, it'll be an actual, like, reasonable excuse. Like, you cannot work. Like, it's not. And it was very true. And so that was my 1 day off to recover from being vaccinated. Yeah, so it was good. And you recharge and you keep going.
Yeah. And that 1 day off ruined the whole campaign.
It would. Oh my gosh, my fears.
It's the most important day. No. Something with this album, or leading up to the album, you've been releasing singles in groups that you've called duologies. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about how the idea for that came about, and what the different groups are?
Okay,
I suppose.
So the duologies concept was born from the fact that I kind of had already been doing it subtly and maybe a little unintentionally with my previous release, which was an EP called Here and Now. I would say on Here and Now, if I had been using duology terms back then, I would have named Drive and Towers as a duology, and I would have named Time and Radio Silence as a duology. So, I used to refer to especially Time and Radio Silence as sister songs when I would perform them live. And on the EP, like, sonically, they interlink, they like flow into each other on the track list. And that was kind of because they both told the same story, but from a different angle. So it's like at a different point in the like emotional processing of the situation that the songs were about. So Radio Silence is like devastating heartbreak, like just want to be sad and so upset. But Time is more the accepting, optimistic, melancholic approach to the same feeling. And so when it came to working out how we were going to release the album, and I think I knew that I wanted to try and find a way to do it wherein we could spotlight the songs or give them a little bit more of an opportunity to be heard before we kind of gave people this bulk of information, which is like 15 songs. I just don't know if the record would have been able to be as easily digested, considering it's so much. It's also a bit of a genre shift, and there's so many themes. So in a way, being able to drip feed this album in duologies means I can talk more about the specific themes of the album and hone in on the emotions and talk about how those two songs relate each time. But I think it also really it allows my audience to kind of adapt to, I guess, this new approach that I've taken with my music. It's a little less indie folk and it's more in a pop space, and there's a lot, and I feel like that has been an adjustment. And because I can't play shows right now, they can't see that adjustment happening in the flesh, you know, like it's all stuff that I'm giving to them online. They can't be in the moment with it, and so it kind of in that sense makes it even harder. So I feel like with the duologies I've been able to be like, you get it? You see? like just again and again. And so now that people have the full record, I think it kind of gives context to what we've been doing with that. So that's the story of my little duology children.
Very cool. It was actually funny. I think it was the week before you kind of announced you were doing that. I was thinking about some songs that I'd written. I think two songs I'd written in like a week, and how they were like kind of about the same thing, but like I'm coming at them from two different angles. And then like 1 week later, you're like, here's this idea. And it's like,
no
the
way.
same thought
Really?
that I had.
Oh my God, that's like, so cool. That's so interesting.
We have the same mind, but yours is slightly better. And when I say slightly, probably much better.
I think that's very kind, but don't be silly. I think that it is I might have given it a name and a fancy way of rolling it out through an artist project, but I think that, everyone has that with every feeling ever, especially, I'm in my early 20s. Life is so much about like, oh, I think I feel this way. And then being like, actually, wait, actually, no, I changed my mind. And I think that unfortunately there's still this way of, I feel like people leave high school and come into the world expecting to know exactly what you want to do, who you want to be, where you want to live, what kind of partner you want to have, like all of these things that you should just know. And you definitely shouldn't, because if that's our way of being emotionally, then that should be the same approach to how we do life. It should be celebrated and embraced that it's a kind of frantic time in our lives where we're a little bit indecisive, and that's okay, because ultimately allowing yourself to change your mind about things and then, have a bit longer to find your feet means that you just have a more, clear idea of who you are as an individual. And I think that's a big theme of what Begin to Look Around is about.
So apart from doing the music, you've also, to do with duologies, you've got this Spotify series, Joined in Theme. Did I get the name right?
Yes, you did.
I have notes here, but nothing of importance. Just random notes. I've been listening to it. There's three episodes out, one for each duology so far. Any more episodes of that coming out?
There will be more episodes.
Very cool. Can you tell us a bit about why you wanted to do that as well?
Joined in Theme was just like another opportunity of being like, okay, well, if this concept isn't necessarily translating in a visual sense or in a sonic sense, how about I just chat about it to you more? No, it was kind of, it's a bit that, but it was mostly just because I get a chance on Joined in Theme to actually talk directly about the songs that inspired those songs of mine. Like I get to kind of dig into where they were born inspiration-wise, like songs like Bigger Than Me. It simply would not exist if it weren't for Maggie Rogers, and her record, Heard It in a Past Life, because I listened to the record the whole way to the session. I was listening to it at the time so much, like so many of our conversations that day about Maggie made that song what it became. And, same with my song Human. The day beforehand, I'd been at a show and seen my friend Charlie play for the first time, and she sung an original song of hers called Hard for Me, and I just totally fell in love with her. And I went into the studio and I said, I want to make a song that makes people feel how Charlie's song made me feel. So it wouldn't exist had I not had that experience. And I think Joined in Theme, I can talk about the themes of the songs, but I can also give a little, nod of credit to those sources of inspiration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. But Charlie's so good. I saw her like 3 years ago before she like released anything. Yeah. It was like in this tiny room. She was supporting somebody. I don't even remember who she was supporting. It's all I remember is she was there.
She's great. She's a brilliant performer. She's the best vocalist. She's so impressive, and she has a lot of really, really wonderful songs that the world hasn't heard yet. So I'm very excited for her and her project.
Yes, very cool stuff. But I'd recommend everyone go listen to that show. Joined in Theme. To just give you more information on your songs and the duologies. I've always thought tell, don't show. That's
really?
That's how I've always lived my life. And it's a good way as an artist to go about things.
Thank you.
It's a head nod. It's the opposite rule it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess so. I think telling is fun. I think it invites for relatability too. I think that, as soon as you start explaining something, someone's like, as you just said to me before, I had that idea. We're all the same. So
something I've been excited about, and COVID just keeps letting me down, is seeing you play live. I've got my ticket somewhere. I believe it's now for 2025, something like that.
No.
Yeah, with these, like you've said before, there's a bit of a genre change with the newer music. Is that going to change your live show in any way?
Yeah. Yes, it definitely already has. I mean, we actually have a live show prepared because, again, when we were out at some point, my band and I did a couple of weeks of rehearsing and got the show together and had shows lined up that have been now moved twice. And we got a chance to actually play some of the songs for Splendor in the Grass XR. And we also got to do like a version. So, that was a really good thing that I got to do this year, was like spend some time with my band and getting to know the songs. And yeah, I mean, the show is different in the sense that there's definitely, there's more energy to it. There's more going on, and we have track, we have, the sound I think is much more full than it used to be, but I'm also not playing instruments as much as I used to. Because I think what came with writing these new songs was, I mean, they're a challenge to sing. My songs are always a challenge to sing. But, these ones feel even more challenging because I think that initially they were a bit out of my comfort zone to write as well. So I just get to focus on my vocals and also like my stage presence and moving around and, kind of trying to embody that energy of the excitement of a show, I guess, which is something that I've wanted to work on for a really long time. It's not necessarily something that comes super naturally. I think that, I get quite nervous and moving around. There have been countless times where I've been like, I'll keep, it'll just look natural. And then I get on stage and I just like stiffen up. I'm like, I can't do it. So I needed that time to rehearse and get into my body a bit. But I'm hoping that with time and practice and when shows can be more of a thing again, I'll get a chance to kind of, get better at that. But that's probably the biggest shift in the show. And I can't wait until people can see it and I can see them, because I haven't experienced it with like feeling other people's energy. And I know people talk about this so much during this pandemic when artists talk about what they miss about shows. They're like, live streams just aren't the same because you don't get the energy of the crowd. And like, it's true though. Like, we're all saying it because that's just the best way of describing it. It does make a massive, massive difference. So, one day it'll be fun.
Yeah, we talked about the genre change a little bit. Was there any kind of, I don't know, reaction? I make it sound like people are angry or something, but was there? Did you hear anything from the fans, I guess, about what they thought of the new sound?
I think like a little, but not much. I think that the reality is the songwriting is still very me. Like, it's still my slightly unpredictable melodies. It's still my way of arranging harmonies and the things that made the project what it was before. It's just kind of dressed up a little bit differently. It's like in a different costume, a more sparkly one, maybe. And it's a little more organized. I like to think that the songs are a little bit more neat and tidy now because structurally it's just, I learned a lot more about the formula of writing a pop song. And which is it was a challenge, and I'm really proud that I am kind of more comfortable in that kind of writing territory now. But I think it's usually maybe slightly older audience members, or like even friends or family or something. Like people that have seen me sing and play guitar and mainly be inspired and influenced by like folk and country music. I think of course it's a bit of a shift where I'm singing songs like singing lyrics like stripped of self-awareness, care and clothing in a silk gown in a music video. Obviously big shift, and so I think with people that have had that more kind of paternal view of you, if that makes sense, where it's been like, oh, she's little, and then you start doing stuff that's in a pop world where things are a bit more exciting and you take more risks, and I'm also growing up. I'm not like little anymore. I think that maybe people do, there's a slight, that's interesting, like that kind of tone. That's an interesting direction. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't faze me because, like, you know, people are drawn to different kinds of genres. I mean, for example, I'm kind of dealing with it now in my own way in terms of like slowly digesting the New Lord record because, you know, I loved melodrama so much and this is such a huge sonic shift, but I respect her so much as an artist and I love that she takes risks and tries new things and I respect that so much more than the idea that she's going to necessarily make another record that lands with me as quickly as melodrama did, you know? So, you know, everyone will have their different opinions and I think that something I'm very used to hearing, and I love it, quite frankly. It's very special, is when, you know, I'll go on Instagram Live or something and they'll be like, oh, I just want to hear the acoustic version of this. Like, can you do a stripped back? Can you do a piano version? And like, of course, I'll always do that because the songwriting is the most important thing. But, you know, pop songs are so much more of a challenge to write. And I think when it comes to that conversation about like, this is a whole other thing, but you know, pop music kind of being seen through this lens where people perceive it to be like cheaper or something. That annoys me so much because it's so much harder because there are so many more rules and yet you have to follow those rules and still make the music authentic to you and your project and interesting but also like catchy and like use repetition but not like there's so many things. And yeah, so I wish that the intelligence surrounding like pop stars and pop music in general was something that was much more at the forefront of conversations about music. But I mean, I could talk about this forever. It's really interesting. And I think that ultimately like music's subjective, it will come down to people's tastes. And I am just going to keep working to challenge myself as an artist to try things that I want to try. And to keep telling the kinds of stories that I want to tell. Like that's always going to be the most important thing to me. So ta-da! Yeah. That's my answer.
You've sold out, man.
I remember the first time someone called me a sellout on the internet. And it was so fun. It was pretty funny, actually. I thought it was hilarious because I wasn't doing heaps at the time. And it was an ad that I'd done for like an Uber style app. And it was about, and it like I'd done this thing and anyway, I just saw someone being like, imagine selling out this hard. And I was like, man, it was a paid job and like, you don't make money in music. Can I have some? Exactly. So sad. But no, it was funny.
Something, someone that we both know, Imogen Clark, shared something on her Instagram the other day. It was like someone had commented on one of her newer videos. It's like, I used to like your music, but now you've sold out. And she's like, but I'm so poor. I'm not making money off this.
I think that's the funniest thing about it. It's so funny when people say it. It's funny, and then it's also a bit like sad or something because it's like, I work so hard like in this industry that is just like crashing and burning because of a global pandemic, and like I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like I don't know.
All my work is gone.
Yeah. All you can do what you can do. I think that the most important thing, there's this really great interview. I mean, all of her interviews are great, but in the Beats One interview with Taylor Swift, like after, maybe was it after Lover came out or Folklore came out? I can't remember. I feel like it was probably Lover. And she just talks about the importance of just needing to keep making things. She's like, if she had any advice, it's just keep creating, like no matter what's going on. And, you know, like her career is, you know, the example of no matter what people are saying about you or how you're being perceived or what era you're in or any of that stuff, like just keep making art. And I think that that's really important for all of us. And I mean, it's hard during this time, obviously, but it's the most important thing. People will say things and perceive it in whatever way they choose to. That's out of your control. You love music. Keep making music. That's all you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Just do your thing.
Do your thing.
Yeah, exactly. One more thing I wanted to bring up. It's something I talk about with people from time to time about them kind of growing up and like songwriting in their teenage years. And a lot of people are like, I think back, like occasionally I'll listen back to something I wrote as a teenager and it's just like, this is so cringy. But I was wondering, someone like you who started releasing songs in their kind of teen years that are actually quite good. Like he wrote Drive, what you were like 17, was it?
Yeah.
That's a masterpiece, and so I was going to say like, so fuck you, but no, it's it's so good. But how do you kind of look back on that older music?
In like a protective way, I think, more than anything else. And I think in a kind way too. I think it's really important to be kind to your past self, especially when, like, you know, it's not cool as a creative to be like, oh my God, that's so shit. Because like you'll think that again in a few years' time. It's like how often I will say things and I know that I'll think it's hilarious in a few years' time. When I go, I was such a baby then. It's like, you're a baby now. Like we always do that, you know? And I think that with the earlier songs, what I love about them so much is the fact that, I mean, with Elsewhere, those songs were written and released in a time where I did not have the voice in my head of like, what are other people going to think about this? I just made them for me, my family and friends, and for Josh, the producer, you know, like it was just our thing that we had. And that was so protective and safe, and that little bubble that I'm so grateful for. But once, you know, people, their eyes are kind of on your project, that's amazing. But it definitely does kind of influence how you work a little bit, because sometimes you'll get so caught up in an idea. And then, of course, that voice just comes and goes, you know, like, oh, and the crowd could sing this bit. And you could have lights that go like this, and the cover art could be this. You don't do any of that when you haven't released music before. So I think that keeps a little bit of magic about the songs. I think with Here and Now, I listened to that for the first time in ages recently, actually. And I love that EP too. I think that was so much of like finding my feet. Like I wrote those songs when I was out of high school and I was getting into this like new exciting time in my life. I mean, Drive was obviously written, you know, way before a lot of those other songs were. And I hear it and I think, oh, I overcomped my vocals because I know that I did. I was so obsessive about like everything being like so perfect. And now I feel like I love little imperfections in albums, and I made my record in a slightly different way. And I also will hear like certain lyrics and be like there's this lyric in When We're in Fitzroy, like, I wait at home to greet you, I'll treat you like you're a god. And every time I hear it, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. But also, I mean, bless, but hate. No, I think I just never would write a lyric like that now. I don't think so. And I love, yeah, it's endearing to me, I think. And you grow and you change your mind about things, as I was saying. So that's a very long answer to your question. But I think ultimately it's just important to be caring, especially because amazingly those songs mean something to somebody else, to other people. People have their own stories and attachments. So who am I to come out and be like, oh, I don't like that song that I wrote? Because it's like, okay, all right, like it's not yours anymore. You released it and now it belongs to other people. It's like when, you know, I went and saw John Mayer years and years ago. But, like, I went and saw him play and everyone was just going, play Your Body is a Wonderland. Like, no one would stop, like, calling it out. And he was like, I hate that song. Like, I don't want to play it. You don't even want to hear it. You just want to hear the intro. And I think about that, and I don't know what it's like to have those kind of feelings at that level of fame and stardom, of course. But I'm just like, oh, but right now my naive perspective is, like, what about the people who have an emotional attachment to that song, who, like, you know, started to get to know each other, like a couple that, like, had their honeymoon phase and, like, that was their song. Like, don't you want to play it for them? Because, like, yeah, like those things. Like, I don't know. I think when people have their own stories with the songs, it brings the life and the magic back, no matter how much you've moved on from it or how much you might cringe at a certain lyric. Like, your association with it almost doesn't matter once it's out, because it belongs to other people. That's my 2 cents on that.
Fair enough. I saw John Mayer more recently, probably like 2018, maybe 2017, something like that. And he had a long story. He always does these fucking long stories before songs. That man can talk.
He can. It's true.
But he kind of had a different kind of opinion of the song when I saw him. He was saying, like, still he looks back and I was like it. We all know it's a bit of a cheesy song.
Yeah.
I think the whole world can agree on that.
Yeah. Total cheese
but he's
ball.
saying like he kind of looks back on it like, and he compares it to like him like in his younger days, maybe wearing a jacket or something, and he looks back at a picture and is like, what a crap jacket, what a stupid jacket. He's like, but look how much fun I'm having in that jacket. And he kind of compared it to like, yeah, that kind of thing. Like it was a good time making it. And he's, I guess, able to look at it like that now.
That is a good analogy. And I am glad that I have that updated perspective, because I do remember when he released Love on the Weekend, I was like, okay, like this is just that reinvented. Like you know, you're back to like your pop vibes. Like, and so it is refreshing to hear, because that is definitely, it is such a good analogy in that sense. Like, yeah, you can look back on something and be like, oh, but you could never, ever take back the fact that it was created in a time where you thought it was the fucking coolest thing ever. And that's so nice. So, yeah.
Well, it's been good talking to you today.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for having me.